don't be discouraged if you run into people that tell you that it's stupid, because a lot of people told me that it's stupid. And I just smiled and nodded my head in agreement and just did it my own way anyway. It's a privilege to be able to move your body. I always tell myself, I get to work out, I get to train legs. Because let me be honest, yesterday I didn't want to train legs. I work out because it's for me and I could be better for other people if I do that. So that kind of deal. Just understanding that fat loss or weight loss or any type of goal is rarely ever linear. If you eat a lot of foods that are super hyper palatable, meaning like it tastes really freaking good, it's really difficult to pull yourself back and say, okay, that's enough. First of all, after you run, you're hungry. So when you do something like active, it just increases appetite. It's basically torture. If I decide, okay, I'm gonna run 3 to 5K every day, and then I'm gonna go on a calorie deficit. Yo, that's hard. That's a real challenge. Maybe not the best, but I look my best. Then it's, man, like that. This person has a lot of discipline. This person has a lot of work ethic, and man, you can't buy that. You can't pay for it.
David Neill, welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
I'm so glad you can make it finally here. David, for the audience that's not familiar with you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is David. I live in Las Vegas. I've worked in and out of the fitness industry for about 10 years.
10 years. Wow. That comes with a boatload of experience. I really wanted to bring you on the show today to talk about this pretty cool endeavor that you just put yourself through, called the 75 Hard Challenge. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So this program was designed by a guy named Andy Frizella, and he likes to call it a program, not a challenge. And the reason being is the primary goal is for mental toughness. So it's like having little mini missions throughout the day for 75 days straight, where you develop a lot of mental toughness because you're forced to do these things. So
do the hard thing, right?
Yeah, do the hard things, exactly.
And I've also really did a lot of digging into that topic, and there's this thing called cross adaptation, that if you do the hard things, it easily transfers over to the mental aspect side of things, and vice versa, right? So if you're doing something that's mentally tough, then it's easy to apply to the physical stuff that we do, right? There's a saying out there that I read: hard choices, easy life; easy choices, hard life. Somewhere along those lines. Yeah. Right.
Well, have you ever heard of game theory?
No.
So game theory it's a pretty old type of philosophy where you look at your life as like basically a video game, like you're a role-playing character. And when I saw 75 Hard, I looked at it as, okay, this is like a side mission or a quest where I could build some HP, some XP, So it allows you to do other things, and you have all this experience and all this, and it doesn't feel as challenging anymore because that's where the mental toughness aspects comes from it. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have a daily mission that you have to accomplish every day.
Exactly. Yeah. You got some monsters you got to slay, right? So
I love it. It. Probably some inner monsters that you got to slay, right?
Exactly.
For sure. What made you want to try it to begin with? Like, how did you find out about it? What made you finally say, you know what? I think that challenge is for me.
Well, I personally love challenges. I know in the fitness world, challenges, or I know it's not a challenge, a program, but I know in the fitness world a lot of people kind of discourage people from doing things like this because they think it's not sustainable. But personally, I think that's not the point of it. The point isn't sustainability. The point is to put yourself through the gauntlet, right? I love things like that. Like I've joined different types of challenges and programs before, and it helps break up the monotony of training, because as you're probably aware, working out could be monotonous. Like basically it's a whole lot of rinse and repeat and a lot of Groundhog Day, right? So, and that's how you basically get shit done, is you become really brilliant at the basics. So to break up the monotony of training, I like to implement little challenges for myself, whether that be ones that I've created, or I joined 75 Hard because a lot of people are doing it. That's number one. And there's a support group on Facebook. And I saw the different types of people that are doing it. So it allowed me to have not only an accountability, but also to talk with other people doing the exact same challenge.
For sure. I think you mentioned a key word there, which is community. I think that's an underrated and underappreciated part about somebody's journey, especially when it comes to weight loss, is you want to feel supported, right? You want to feel like you're part of a group. You want to feel like you belong. That way you can get support and accountability along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going through the little details about this. So let's go through it one by one.
Sure.
With what diet did you follow during the challenge?
Okay, so a couple things I want to add before. I didn't do any substitutions. I know Andy, he's the guy that created the program. It's very clear that you can't do any type of substitutions. Mm-hmm. So you have to, like, there's a lot of people that will make 75 their own. And on one end, I understand why they do it. On the other end, it's kind of not the same thing anymore, right? So for sure. In my case, so one by one, we're going to start with like the different challenges that are involved with 75 hard. Okay, so for me personally, the most difficult one, funny enough, is probably one that would be easy for everybody, and that's drinking a gallon of water.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is about me. I feel like probably I retain water like a little bit more than the average person, and my evidence to that is that when I work out or like it's hot, I normally run hot. So because I run hot, my body, I feel like, holds on to a little bit more water.
Yeah, you're an N equals one experiment here. So totally.
Yeah. So what I found was drinking a gallon of water. Number one, I had to start early. Number two, I just peed every 5 minutes, and it was just always clear pee. So obviously, that's not at that point. Am I actually getting anything out of this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure the audience appreciate the very detailed explanation of your experience there. I feel like on the one side of that, I appreciate the challenge aspect of drinking a gallon of water, but experts like Chris Kresser has done a really good job kind of debunking the bro science of, drinking 8 glasses a day. It's really different. It's totally different when
you're thirsty, right?
For everyone. Exactly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, though, there are other people on the other side of that equation where they operate most of their day on a mildly dehydrated state. So like I said, the truth is usually somewhere between there. So I do appreciate the challenge of making sure that you are hydrated throughout this challenge.
The group was really funny. I just want to circle back a little bit. There was like 4 women that were like, I'm 4'11" and I weigh less than 100 pounds, and I drink a gallon of water, no problem. I'm like, man, like there's some women that have bigger bladders than me. I'll tell you that much. Because like,
exactly,
if you can hold your piss from a gallon of water, like, yo, you're a better human being than me. I don't know what it is. You're a camel.
There you go. Yeah, it's totally different for everyone. Yeah. So what diet did you follow during the challenge? Tell me about that aspect of it.
So I used MyFitnessPal and I tracked my macros. I did a moderate deficit, nothing crazy. Like, I know some people, they use 75 hard as like their huge cut, right? So they'll go on like a massive caloric deficit. What I basically did is I went no more than 500 calories, probably more like 350. And I tempered it. So every couple of weeks I'd adjust. So in this program, I lost 18 pounds, right, in total.
Wow.
And and I didn't even feel it because and the reason why I feel like I didn't feel it is because I didn't go nuts. Like there's definitely 2 schools of thought though. There's people that they go on a massive calorie deficit, and I'm talking massive, like 1,000 calories. And their line of thinking is that, their line of thinking is I'm going to be nutritionally deprived for a shorter period of time, where you're going to be nutritionally deprived for a longer period of time. So I understand both schools of thought, but my main goal wasn't to just get shredded on this program. I'm going to run it again. And when I do run it again, I'm going to focus on cutting more because I kind of wanted to get the initial weight loss off first. So kind of like a pre-cut cut, so to speak. Right.
Totally.
But those are those 2 schools of thoughts. The ones where it's like, give me 6 to 8 weeks and I'll go super, super aggressive, lose a lot more fat. Sure, I'll lose a little bit of muscle in the process, but I believe strongly in muscle memory. That's their line of thinking. And so like, if I lose a bit of muscle, that's fine, because I don't want to be in this nutritionally deprived state for too long. And you know what? I'm starting because I did the longer version. I think I understand the value of that too. I understand, like, if you're on a calorie deficit for like months, like there's people that do it up to 6 months, then you're ultimately losing a lot of nutrition there, right? So I understand that idea as well. I had 2 to 3 staple meals a day, like literally ate the exact same stuff every single day. And then whatever was left over, I just had a protein shake. So I just filled the gaps. I played food Tetris. And on occasion, when during the holidays or like my birthday specifically, because I decided to do 75 hard right after Halloween. So November 1st is when I started. And that's right before my birthday. And not only my birthday, but all the holidays, right? And then
Thanksgiving.
That was strategic, mind you. That was on purpose. That was premeditated. From that, I knew that like if I wanted to fit in some foods that I wanted to eat, then I had to plan ahead. So
for sure. Tell us about your meals exactly. What were these meals that you were very consistent with that you were able to stick to?
Sure. So I'm a very strong believer that you should eat like you should keep your diet as simple as possible. And the reason why I feel that way is because if you eat a lot of hyper palatable foods, let's say I decided to fit in, I don't know, some like a cookie or something, right? And nothing against cookies. I know myself, if I have a cookie, I'm gonna be like, oh man, I want more cookies. And I know my general mannerisms there. Like if I have something really sweet, I crave it more. So I focused on very simple foods. So I literally ate no more than 7 different foods every day. Like I had ground beef, I used butter as my oil, and to lubricate the pan, I used a cast iron pan, and chicken, rice, potato, salt, and maybe a little bit of garlic. And I just kept it super simple, super simple. Protein powder at the end. To tell you the truth, I'm not a fan of protein powder, but it was an easy way to hit the missing links in my macros.
Absolutely. The bro diet. I love it.
It's a bro diet. You got it. Yeah. Some veggies too. Just so that if I ever felt hungry, and I'm realizing now that veggies it depends on the person. It's very individualistic. But Absolutely. For me personally, I feel pretty good when I eat it. So yeah. And fruits.
Totally.
Yeah, and fruits.
For sure. What time did you eat your first meal? And, when did you finish your last meal? Did you practice any sort of intermittent fasting there? Tell me about your eating frequency.
So I wanted to train early in the morning for this program. The first thing I did is I would, as soon as I wake up, I would go for a walk right away. That was my first workout. I'd walk my dogs for the first hour of the day. And then I would have my meals closer to around noon, because then I'd work out like weight train in the afternoon around 2 to 3. So depending on other people that are listening, because I know their schedules are going to be different. If you're the type of person that needs to get everything done out of the way, I highly recommend it, because it's a game changer when you get the hardest stuff done first. In my case, I got the walk done first. I'm pretty blessed because I live in an environment where the weather's nice most of the year, right? So for people in Canada, God bless, because I know there's people, but there are people in the 75 hard group that live in Canada, and seeing them they literally dress up to the nines and they're covered in snow. So full respect to them. So
absolutely.
And so
I'm one of those nerds. Meal,
yeah. Oh, you walk outside in the cold? Yeah. So
yeah, man, it was minus 30 Celsius like a couple of weeks ago, which is minus 22 Fahrenheit plus the wind chill. And I'm one of those nerds that just got to bundle up and do your walk outside.
Well, there's a deep sense of personal achievement when you do something like that. Like I don't know if for certain, because there's a phase 2, right, in 75 hard, and I'm not going to do that one just yet. But in phase 2, you do 5 minutes of a cold shower, right? Which I know is nothing to you because I know you've done that before. But one thing I was thinking though is I've done cold showers in the past, and I'll real talk, I don't know if there's like any actual like insane benefits, but the one benefit that I can say is this deep sense of personal achievement of doing something really hard, right? I don't know if it's like they've made some pretty crazy claims, increasing libido, increasing energy, getting more brown adipose tissue so that you have a certain more like resistant type of fat. I've read that all that stuff helps with recovery. I really have no idea. I'm not like a professional athlete. I could tell you the incremental differences, but for me personally, that deep sense of personal achievement and getting that done, man, it's underrated. So
absolutely. It just builds, mental fortitude, right?
Exactly.
Like we discussed
HP,
earlier.
XP.
There you go. You go. You're gaining more experience. David, tell me your experience about going without alcohol and cheat meals.
Okay, that's a really good question because honestly, one of the main reasons I started 75 Hard was because I was drinking too much. I was having like anywhere between 3 to 5 drinks a day. It was just not good. And it was one of those situations where I wasn't getting drunk and I was telling myself, oh, it's okay. You're not getting drunk anyway. And I think that's how problems start is you rationalize a little bit and I didn't feel so shitty the next day that I couldn't get anything done. So, but I was just feeling just shitty enough where I was like, I could do better than this. So I talked with my friend. Her name is Rika. She works in AA and she's like an accountability buddy for a lot of people that are trying to quit alcoholism. So I got into a really good conversation with her, and she quit not because she was an alcoholic, but because she was tired of not operating at 100%. That's what she told me. She's
Totally.
like, I'm tired of waking up in the morning and sure I'm not hungover, sure I'm not this, sure I'm not that, and sure I could even wait till the end of the day to have a drink, but I knew for a fact I wasn't operating at 100%. And I was when I heard that, it was like, man, like yeah, like I could completely relate to that because like there's something about getting your day started and doing something for yourself and having a clear head that sets you up for success later. And if you start that day kind of in a deficit, whether that be like
Mhm.
you know you drank the night before, even if you drank like a couple of glasses of wine to wind down and help you go to sleep, let's face it, you're not getting the best kind of sleep that you can get. You know,
Totally.
and this is proven too. I know it could be different for everybody, but this is proven. Your core temperature increases when you sleep because of the alcohol, because your body's just trying to get rid of it, right? And as a result, your sleep is disturbed. And I already snore, so I don't want to add any more deficits to my sleep. So my experience with it was okay. Just to circle back, I had to say no to a lot of social outings. That's number one. I live in Las Vegas. A lot of the people here drink. We even went like for the holidays around Christmas time. I even saw some family members, and of course, you know, there's alcohol everywhere. So there were some challenging points there for sure. But overall, it was because I had a mission. It was easy to say no.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy who hasn't had a drink in about 14 years, but I've really never met anyone whose life got worse when they stopped drinking alcohol. So that's just my little anecdote right there. But yeah, thank you for being honest there. 10 pages of reading is probably nothing for you. I'm sure that, yeah, you're a big reader. What
Mm-hmm.
book did you read?
You know Naval Ravikant? I
Yes.
know you're a fan. So I've been listening to Naval for a few years on and off, and he said something in a podcast, a Tim Ferriss podcast, because he was asked the same question, like, "What books do you recommend?" It's funny. I've heard two great answers to this question, and I've began to apply it to my life. The Naval's answer was he doesn't really read a book from front to end. He'll literally go through the books that have impacted him the most, and he'll go through the table of contents, and he'll pick a chapter that could help him, or maybe something he wants to revisit. So I've started to read like that, and it's very liberating because I used to be a cover to cover reader, like like a completionist almost, you know, and
Sunk
it
cost
helped me.
bias.
Yeah, so it really helped me. If this successful tech entrepreneur, you know, brilliant mind philosopher reads like that, why can an idiot like me read like that? You know, so I so I was like, I've already read a lot of books that have impacted my life. Why do I need to keep finding new and new books? Now, granted, there are always, you know, new books that are being created. There's always great recommendations, but that's where I'll circle into the next answer that I heard that I thought was brilliant. And I got this one from MJ DeMarco. You're familiar with his work with the Millionaire
Love
Fastlane.
this stuff.
You know, yeah, he was asked the same exact question. What books do you recommend? And oh man, this answer was brilliant. He said, what problem do you have in front of you right now? Read something on that. A lot of the times people read just like they for entertainment, right? And I'm
Mhm.
guilty of this too. I definitely have read for entertainment. And if you read a fiction book, that's a little different. But if you're like trying to get some shit done, then what is the biggest problem that is in front of you right now, and read a book on that. So I think
I
that's
agree.
so to answer your question, I read Atomic Habits. I read The Four Agreements. I read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I read $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. I read what else? So I basically dipped into my current collection and reread certain parts that maybe I just wasn't applying, you know. So
Totally.
and I think moving forward, that's how I'm going to continue to read. I'm going to have a handful of books that I want to apply the principles to, and until I've applied those principles, and I feel like it's literally my identity. You know, like if you remember from Atomic Habits, the double-edged sword of identity. The double-edged sword being like, if you're saying I'm a fitness person, for you to go to the gym, it's just, there's no motivation needed because you're a fitness person. But the downside of that is if I get hurt and now I can't go to the gym, I've literally killed that. Exactly. So it's a double-edged sword. But I think overall, if you ask me, if you lean your habits against your identity, you're more likely to complete it.
Absolutely. All great books, by the way. And I think you just
Yeah.
described something. It's called just in time learning or somewhere along those lines. So, David, what was the hardest part of this program for you?
The hardest part, I think, was I had to say no to a lot of social outings. I had to say no to a lot of friends. I mean, it was kind of hard and not hard because I communicated it, thankfully. You know, if some of your listeners are considering doing 75 hard, you got to do some PDA. You ever heard of that before? PDA? So some
No,
public display of accountability,
I
meaning
love that.
you got to tell everybody what the fuck you're doing. Now I know it's kind of annoying because, you know, people hate announcing things and kind of like airing their shit out there. But there's a huge advantage. Like if you're a smoker and you tell your friends and everybody around you, I am not a smoker. I am not. Don't give me a cigarette. People are gonna hold you to that, right? And that's the advantage of some PDA, some public display of accountability. So I told all my friends that I'm doing 75 hard. I'm not drinking. And I feel like my friends grew a respect for me, especially seeing me complete it. So it's easy to
Yeah,
talk, right? But once they see you, you know, go through the process and then finish, then it's like, oh shit, like, okay.
this guy's
So
serious.
yeah, they respect you. You get a lot more, and they appreciate your time more. Because I did go out, but I had to be a lot more mindful of the time. And when I did go out, people were like, okay, it wasn't. I didn't really have to. When I said I had to go, I didn't really have to give like a long-winded excuse because they know why, right?
And you did a great job posting. You were posting that picture with the days X'd off for 75 days here. So yeah, that was awesome. Was there anything that surprised you while you were doing this plan?
I think the biggest surprise for me personally was when I joined the group because I didn't join the group right away. I waited like a couple weeks before I joined it, and I saw the different types of people that do these type of programs. You get the people that are like the obsessive type. You get the people that let themselves off the hook too many times, and which like the beautiful thing about this program is if you mess up once, like let's say for example, I drank one sip less than a gallon of water a day, and then you fail. You have to start back from day one.
Wow.
Return to start, right? So
Wow.
yeah. So if they're very if I read 9 pages instead of 10 pages, go back to start, right?
Wow.
And it was cool to see that like there was I saw one where this guy was at day 74 and he messed up. I saw one where this girl caught COVID. She's like, sorry guys, I have to go back to day one. I'm like, oh my
Wow.
God. You know? So I like that I saw the different types of people there that were holding themselves accountable, but it was also interesting to see the people that made it almost like they're saving the world. Like I thought that was kind of funny because for me, I love working out and I love fitness, but the part of the community that confuses me is the people that feel like they're like saving starving children. You know, they're like, oh, you're at a bar right now, and I'm at the sober bar. You know, that superiority complex, which I think is entertaining. Like it's a privilege to be able to move your body. I always tell myself I get to work out, I get to train legs. Because let me be honest, yesterday I didn't want to train legs. Did not want to train legs. My leg days are no joke. So when I yesterday I was like, oh, but I get to move my legs. I get to train. Have a leg day. So when you have that attitude, I think it's a little bit different because I think if you have that attitude where you're like, you start to think you're better than other people because you work out, like that's where it gets a little bit interesting.
Totally. Some people feel like they have the moral high ground and,
Yeah,
almost a little judgmental.
to some extent, I also understand that because you got to have standards. You know, I get that. You know, I don't want to completely throw the baby out with the bathwater. I understand why there's people that are, we live in a different time now where it's a very sensitive time, right? The reason why it's sensitive is because the lines of standards are beginning to blur. So I think it's important to hold yourself to a higher standard and say like,
Totally.
yeah, I work out because it's for me and I could be better for other people if I do that. So that kind of deal. Right. So I understand
I agree.
that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely tend to belong on that side of the equation rather than accepting, mediocrity.
Totally.
What are your overall thoughts about it now, David, now that you're done? What's your biggest takeaway?
Okay. So number one, 10 out of 10 would recommend. I know a lot of people in the fitness world do not like these type of programs, and I understand why, but I just want to say to those people, why do you think people do bodybuilding competitions? Why do you think people do CrossFit competitions? Why do you think people do powerlifting meets? Because training can be boring, and sometimes you want to put it all together and see what you're made of. You want to sometimes you got to see what you're made of. So when I do these challenges, it's a nice way to without having a YOLO, like, let's see my max bench press. And that's how people get injured. That's ridiculous. It's like after not peaking, I'm going to go ahead and just max out on bench. Almost every single injury I've ever seen is somebody trying to just show off for the like ego lift, right? So my suggestion is when you do these programs, you come into it with the right mindset. And also, yeah, you're going to build some XP and you're going to build some HP. So I would recommend it. But I also think that if you are going to tell people, don't be discouraged if you run into people that tell you that it's stupid, because a lot of people told me that it's stupid, and I just smiled and nodded my head in agreement and just did it my own way anyway. So that's the best thing you can do.
I love that attitude. No, totally. You definitely are going to get some haters out there whenever they hear something about this, but I feel like you can use it as a tool, especially to get people started. It just gives people something to work towards. It gets your foot at the door, right? And a lot of people, especially when they're motivated, if you give them a goal, they're more likely to succeed rather than kind of just freestyling it, because it's so easy to kind of just go back and forth with it. Whereas if you follow a plan like this, where it's 75 hard, right? No excuses. You got to follow everything, then you're more likely to stick to it. So no, I totally love that attitude. Would you do it again?
I'm doing it again Monday. I'm starting on day one. I'm going to document the whole thing.
Wow.
When I started it on Monday, I was going to start this Monday, but I did go out over the weekend, and I was like, man, okay, I just need a week to adjust myself, get back to normal. And then on Monday, I'm going to start again. And when I start on Monday, I'm going to have a more aggressive cut. I'm going to document it again. Currently at 180. I started this program like 197, 198. I'm at 180 right now. And my goal is to get down to 160, 165. And I'm going to use it a little bit more on the fat loss spectrum. And then also some side stuff that I want to work on. And just to go back a little bit, what you said, what's the advantage of doing like a 75 hard type of program is, man, there's nothing more motivating than having little missions throughout the day and marking it done. You have a to-do list and you mark physically writing, checking it off. Super underrated.
For sure.
It's super fun if it's tangible, right? And if you have mini missions, that's how habits are made, right? Tiny little actions over a long period of time, and eventually it becomes part of your identity, and it becomes a habit.
Habit stacking.
Exactly. Yeah. Habit stacking. That's it.
For sure. David, you have, a decade of experience in the health and fitness space. What's a common diet mistake that you see a lot of people make?
It's funny, when you sent me this questionnaire, I gave this one a lot of thought. The answer to that, I really, 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 really feel, is a couple things. One, it's lack of patience. Like, let me tell you, I took a photo. Part of the challenge of 75 Hard was to take a photograph of yourself every day. Okay. So I have a camera roll folder on my phone, which is, not the most flattering camera roll, let's say, to say the least. And on day one up to like day 30, or like, I don't even see any change. What the hell's happening? It's like, what's going on? I look the same. And then I compared day 1 to day 75, and I was like, yo, that's like the best comparison I can give you is one that I got from this coach named Sohee Lee. She said it's like every day is like a paper towel roll, right? So each day you take a piece out. Like the first week, you're not going to notice much difference, but after a month, it's going to start to shrink. And patience is easily the number one. Like literally, if you're sticking to the process and I had to do a daily weigh-in, and some days I was like, why am I 2 pounds heavier than the day before? It's like, what happened here? So just understanding that fat loss or weight loss or any type of goal is rarely ever linear. It's got,
For sure.
It looks like this. So patience is number one. And number two, just picking any plan. Don't worry. Don't get lost in the minutia. I feel like there's truth in on every one of those, because I think you can be, you could be carb resistant to a certain point where like you're having too much and you're not active enough. So then maybe the insulin response is a little different.
Insulin resistance. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just listened to a podcast yesterday about one of the Stan Efforting. Yeah. He was saying nowadays I don't eat that much carbs because I'm not moving as much. I'm like, so in his mindset, he looks at carbohydrates as kind of like a fuel, right? And I look at it as a fuel as well. If I'm not, that's why I eat a decent amount, moderate to high amount, is because I work out 7 days a week, but I have a program that's 5 days a week, and I want to make sure that I have the performance to be able to complete those workouts. Because there's been times where I didn't eat, I didn't time it properly, whether I fasted too long. I think we've all done that. I like fasted too long, and then I went and did a leg day, and I'm like, yo. Or I went hiking the day prior. There's one day I hiked the day before, and then I did leg day the next day, and I was completely fasted. Wow. I was like, this is stupid. Like I literally lost sets of my workout. Like the strength is not there and the sets are not there. So I think just to stay on point, follow a plan. And if you're not sure what to do, man, like it's invaluable to hire a coach, because they can help you out. At least let you know, hey, like stay on course. Because there was a couple of weeks where my weight didn't even move. Literally 14 days. I was like, it's not moving, not moving, right? Should I add more cardio? Should I take out more carbs? I was starting to think already. And then all of a sudden, literally on day 15, I was down 3 pounds. Like the body is very confusing. Could have just been stress for all I know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just going back to that carb allowance. You definitely have to earn your carbs that way. Like the more active you are, the more carbs you can really get away with. And there has to be a model out there that combines, the calories in versus calories out, and the carbohydrate and insulin weight loss model, because they're both true.
Isn't that new carnivore, like carnivore diet, like 2.0. I was listening to it, and all it is just it includes fruits.
But yeah, the quality of your food really matters at the end of the day. And if you just stay away from the ultra processed stuff, especially the ones with the PUFAs, then you're going to be okay, right? Just stick to whole foods, prioritize protein, eat real food, and your body knows what to do.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, because if we got into like the numbers, right? We got into the numbers. Let's say, for example, you ate something that was processed, but you're still in a calorie deficit. Okay, fair. You might still lose weight, but you're not going to feel great. That's one.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I can tell you from personal experience. Like there was a period where prior to doing 75 hard, I was losing weight while putting a few beers in my diet every single day. But let me tell you, man, like my workouts were, my muscles were flat. Like it was not an optimal approach. It was not. Like you're at some point, and that's how I look at a lot of these processed foods, is that like, sure, you can lose weight, but it's not just about weight. It's about performance. You got to be able to,
and sustainability,
and sustainability. So I think even in the past, we used even having like a Pop-Tart, for example. You're like, oh, I could do this, and then over time, you're like, okay, why am I craving more sweet foods? why is this snowball effect happening where I'm like going back and forth? And that's what you're trying to avoid. When you eat whole foods, maybe foods that are not so hyper palatable, because I think that's and I could be wrong here, but I feel like that's the challenge. If you eat a lot of foods that are super hyper palatable, meaning like it tastes really freaking good, it's really difficult to pull yourself back and say, okay, that's enough, right? Now, if you can eat foods that are not boring, but like simple, is the best way I can describe simple foods, fewest amount of ingredients, as close to its original form as possible. It's really easy to say, okay, I'm done eating, I'm full, right?
Absolutely.
If you eat, it's hard to eat like 200 grams of carbs of potato because you're full by 100. You're like, I'm stuffed. Like, So that's the advantage of quote unquote eating like a whole food or clean diet, is that you're sticking to foods that are closer to its original form.
Absolutely. It's called the Dorito effect. And Mark Schatzker actually wrote a great book about it called the Dorito effect. Basically, if you eat, your typical meal, and if you just ate one Dorito, give it an hour, you're starving. It literally short circuits your brain. It's
Interesting.
that powerful. Yeah, I try to just make it as simple as possible for all my coaching clients because the rate of sustainability that way is just so much higher. We've talked a lot, David, about working out. Talk to me about the importance of building and maintaining muscle, first in relation to fat loss, and B, the importance of it as we age.
Okay, great question. Number one, the important for fat loss is you got to get, when you're losing weight and you introduce resistance training to it, you're making sure your metabolism doesn't turn into crap. And what I mean by that is if I decided I didn't want to weight train anymore and I just decided to go on a massive calorie deficit and I'm eating, let's say 500 calories a day. And I know that's insane, but if you're not moving, you're very sedentary, you're eating 500 calories a day, you're going to lose some weight for sure. But with that, it's going to come a lot of muscle mass, a lot of good and bad tissue, So when you weight train, you're literally giving your body a reason to hold on to muscle, and muscle is an active tissue. There's some debate on how much calories it burns, and maybe it's not as much as we once thought it was. But I'll say that when you're giving your body more of a reason to hold on to this active tissue, then you don't feel as deprived when you're cutting, because like if you just go on a massive calorie deficit and you're depending on, let's say, running, right? Like you decide I'm going to be a runner, and you burn. First of all, after you run, you're hungry. I don't know if you probably have experienced this. When you do something like active where it's just movement, it just increases appetite. It's basically torture.
Absolutely.
If I decided, okay, I'm gonna run 3 to 5K every day, and then I'm gonna go on a calorie deficit, that's hard. That's a real challenge. But if you're like, I'm gonna weight train, it almost feels like, because it's not like, it's true that weight training in itself doesn't burn a lot of energy, but that might be a good thing because you're not starving usually after you eat a protein satiating meal. You're not like, I got to eat more, right? Versus
exactly.
That's the importance of fat loss. And as we age, I would say that, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but in recent studies, they're finding that your metabolism doesn't decrease as much as we once thought it did after 40. There was a previous saying you would hear all the time, like, it's much harder to get this weight off now that I'm older. But it turns out that over a lot of research, that's not true. What ends up happening is a lot of people just become more and more sedentary. So, and it makes sense. You have kids, you have a more stressful job, and people just tend to move more and eat more, move less and eat more. So yes, it appears as like it's harder to get that weight off, especially around the holidays, where average person gains like 10 pounds basically during the holidays.
For sure.
It's harder and harder to get that off. So as we age, it becomes even more important to track your activity, because you're going to find that responsibilities are going to pile up and you're going to add more to your plate. And as a result, you're not going to move as much as you want. And it's going to appear like your metabolism is slowing down. So super important for that. And also looking like, let's be honest, right? There's a superficial aspect to it. You don't want to look like a melted candle in your 40s and 50s. I don't want to look like you want to look your best. I mean, look, let me tell you, I read this quote. It's from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he had a good point. He said, the real status symbol is your body. Like I could drive
I love that.
Like a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, but once I'm out of that car, I'm in this body, melted candle status, right? So nobody knows that I drive those cars. But if I have a sick physique, and I look my best, maybe not the best, but I look my best, then it's, man, like that. This person has a lot of discipline. This person has a lot of work ethic, and man, you can't buy that. You can't pay for it. So
absolutely, you have to earn it.
You have to earn it. Yeah.
Totally. And I just want to go back to what you described as we age. It's called anabolic resistance. So as we get older, the body doesn't process protein as well. So you definitely have to keep stimulating it by doing resistance training and definitely getting high quality protein in your diet. So totally, I love that. David, what's one piece of advice that you would give someone, for somebody who's watching this or listening to this on our podcast? They're just getting started. They don't know what to do. They feel hopeless even. What's one piece of advice that you would give that person that can get the needle moving in the right direction?
I think it's important to start where you are, right? Start where you're at, because there's definitely different psychologies out there. Like, for example, I'm the type of person that works well when I'm shamed. Must be the Filipino upbringing. But when someone shames me, for whatever reason, that negative energy it works for me, to give you a little story.
We both got fat shamed by the same person. That's why we got started. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah. So I went on a little trip to Mexico with these buddies of mine, and my friend Jordan. We were on this boat. He was taking photos of me while I was literally slumped over, like looking at the water, and he put it in our group chat. Okay, and he's like, Dave, what happened? Don't you work out every day? And then and in this group chat was a girl at the time I was seeing. So it's like, yo. Like, not only am I embarrassed by these photos, but I'm embarrassed that the girl that I'm seeing is looking at these damn photos. So I lost a lot of weight that time, like right after that vacation. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
So there's two different types of people. Okay, I know not everybody works the same way, and I know not shame. Some people will get shamed and to prove a point.
Spiral the other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So you gotta understand your own psychology. You gotta start where you are, and if you do find that you're the type of person that needs a little bit of start little by little, start little by little. I mean, if that means going for a 30-minute walk every day, that's a great place to start. Really, it is, and just build from there.
Love that.
I love that. Or put your feet to the fire like I did and do 75 hard.
Two ways to approach it, really.
There's pros and cons to both. If you go the way that I went, you're probably not gonna have a social life. Realistically, because all your friends are not gonna be able to, unless respect though. If you do have a friend circle that understands the value of personal development and operating at your best, if you have that, you are blessed beyond measure. But if you don't, you got to be your own mentor. You got this podcast has to be your mentor. But authors that you read have to be your mentor. That has to be your circle, right? For now,
totally.
Until you do have a good circle for that.
Start where you are. I love that.
Yeah.
David, if you can go back in time, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your former self?
It's the same advice I'd give myself today. Focus on the things that you really are good at, that you're super good at, and you're interested in. You have a childlike sense of curiosity to do every single day, and eliminate all distractions. That's it.
Love that. David, thank you for coming to the show today. If people want to connect with you and want to find out more about you, where can people find you?
You can find me on my Instagram. It's I am David Neill, Neill. Again, it's I am David Neill, Neill. On Instagram. You guys can follow me on. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to document the whole thing. And this time I'm gonna show like my weight loss and everything like that. I did a little bit last time, but like literally like the numbers. Mm-hmm. So if you want to join in and you want to participate, I'm probably gonna run this several times this year, to be honest, and maybe even create my own at some point. Because I just love having side quests, side missions. Mm-hmm. So I can build that XP, HP. So yeah,
love that attitude. The next question then becomes, how and what are you actually supposed to eat if you want to lose weight? Because 80% of your body composition is determined by your diet. This is also where a lot of people go wrong. Do you have a proven plan that you can follow? To help you with that, I want to give you a free copy of my Lean Body Blueprint. This is how I was finally able to get rid of all my stubborn fat without depriving myself of my favorite foods or spending countless hours doing cardio. It's a simple and proven 4-step process specifically designed for busy professionals like you, and it's also the exact same blueprint that I teach to all my coaching clients, and they've all gone to see some amazing results. If you want to be the next success story, then download your free copy of the Lean Body Blueprint right now. There's going to be a link somewhere at the top here or in the description box. Just click on it, type in your email, and I'll send it to you right away. Hey, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post a new video every week, and feel free to comment below if you have any questions about this video. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Virtual high five.